Good morning, everybody. My name is Katarzyna Szopinska, and I'm the product manager of the medical robotics here at KUKA. I'm speaking to you from our medical showroom at KUKA headquarters in Augsburg, and I'm here to present you our collaborative robot dedicated to healthcare, the LBR Med. I will first use our demonstrator here to explain you the technical features of the LBR Med. After that, I will go more into detail on the regulatory topics and what does it mean dedicated to healthcare. So first, this is our LBR Med. In our demonstrator here, we have the LBR7, which is the robot version that can lift and carry 7 kilograms. LBR in German stands for Leichtbauroboter, which is a lightweight robot. And therefore, this version, the LBR7, weighs around 25 kilograms, and its bigger brother, the LBR14, weighs only around 32. But of course, it's not only the robot weight that we are here to talk about. The most special thing about the LBR Med is that it's the world's first robot dedicated for the integration into a medical product. That means that from the design on, we made sure that as many of the medical device manufacturer needs as possible are already integrated into the product, and that the certification of a robot-based medical device is as simple as possible. Looking at the robot, what definitely catches attention is its bionic form. This is one of the examples of how the user safety, so the safety of the doctors, has already been taken into account during the design phase. This form ensures that there are no clamping or squeezing situations. What you can also see, or rather not see, are all the cables around the robot. All the cabling is done within the robot structure from the customer interface here at the robot flange all the way to the base. And then the connectors are all hidden in the robot base so that the doctor doesn't have to worry about accidentally disconnecting the robot or touching any electrical parts. But I think this is enough for the theory now. Let's have a look at the application we have here. The robot is following the same path, and it's following the same path in an extremely precise way. Its pose repeatability is 0.1 millimeters. This is a feature that can find application in multiple medical applications, as it's much higher than what's achievable with the human hand. So in order to show an example for what I'm saying, I would like to present you one of the applications of our customers. And here in the picture, you can see a system from AOT, in which a cart carries the LBR robot, and at the end of the robot, a laser head is attached. This laser head is used for cold laser ablation for bone cutting. It's used for cutting bone in the facial area so that two bone grafts separated from one another can be repositioned, pressed back together, and can grow back together. Now, in such an application, the cut has to be extremely precise so that the bones fit and the shape of the skull can be corrected according to the planning that the doctor has done on the CT images. So in the right, on the image, you can already see a model of the skull. And I know maybe here it's a bit difficult to see, but there is a small point showing how the laser is positioned on the boat and cutting it. But now let's go back to the demonstrator. So precision is, as I said, a very important feature, but so is sensitivity. So even in this application, I can show you that with a very light touch, I'm able to stop the robot. So this is one of the demonstrations of the robot's sensitivity. We can say it's a type of collision detection. The robot detected my touch. For it, it's an additional external resistance, and it was programmed in a way that in such a case, it should stop. Now, this sensitivity, as I said, we'll see many other examples, or rather many other applications of it. But what they all can be traced back to is one technical feature, and that's the force torque sensors in every axis of the robot. These force torque sensors measure the torques in every robot axis so that the robot can detect whether it's moving freely or there is some external influence working on it. And so, as you saw here, this can be used for detecting a collision in which, in this case, the robot stopped. We could also program it in a way that it would become compliant so that we can push it away, or that it would pull back from the detected force by itself. Now, the collision is the first application, but in this application, if I touch the robot again, it will take that as a signal for restarting its operation. So this kind of gesture control is a very intuitive way of interacting with the robot. So we said collision control, gesture, signals to the robot, but there is also a very important feature, the hand guiding of the robot. So now I'm going to change the application on our demonstrator so that I can show you a mock-up of an ultrasound checkup. I just have to log into the interface and change the tool that we have on the robot. So from a tracker, I'm going to switch to a model of an ultrasound head. And again, give the robot a signal that it can go to its starting position. So hand guiding is the possibility of moving the robot around when in the hand guiding mode. So to enter the hand guiding mode, we have to use an enabling device. In our demonstrator, it's a pedal that's on the floor that I'm going to be pressing with my foot. And as soon as I press it, the robot becomes compliant and I can move it around. And here I'm carrying out an ultrasound test on our patient. And while I'm moving the ultrasound head around, the robot is learning. It's learning not only the path, but also the force with which I'm carrying out the movement. So after I'm done with my teaching, the robot will go back to its starting position. And then after receiving an impulse from me, it will carry out exactly the same task again. And when carrying it out again, it's very important that the robot applies exactly the same forces as in the case me as the user or a doctor during in a real medical application would apply on the patient's body. This means that we can be sure the robot will not press too hard on the body, and therefore the patient is safe. This teaching, hand guiding and teaching is very important also in rehabilitation. Another of our partners, Life Science Robotics, created a product called Robert, dedicated to the rehabilitation. So in this application, the robot supports a physiotherapist in exercising with a patient, a bedridden patient who has, for example, had a stroke or is immobilized because of other reasons. Here the physiotherapist is preparing the patient. You can see the robot on the cart already positioned next to the bed. The system is plugged in. And first a safety check is performed. In the meantime, the physiotherapist prepares interface for the robot, which is mounted to the patient's leg and which is going to be used to for the robot to be able to lift the patient's leg. So now the button is pressed. This is, as in the case of our demonstrator, this was the enabling device, the pedal on the floor. Here it's a button. And now the physiotherapist teaches a certain movement. After she's done, you can press a button, and now the robot carries out the same movement. And now this is very important, as this kind of exercising is physically very demanding for the physiotherapist. And the robot can carry out the exercise many more times, hundreds of times, without getting tired. So this is very advantageous also for the patient, as he can exercise for more time. Also, the robot here was mounted on a cart with wheels, can be pushed from one room to the other to help multiple patients in a day. So that was hand guiding in the teaching application. Another application for hand guiding I would like to show you is hand guiding for the pre-positioning of tools. For that, we have spine here, a model of a spine. And again, I'm going to mount a trocar and give the robot a signal saying that it can go back to its starting position. As I'm going to be using hand guiding, again, I have to move around my enabling device on the floor to be able to hand guide the robot. And now when pressing the enabling device, I can move the trocar to a desired position. And as soon as I release it, the robot stays in place, and the doctor can use the robot, for example, as a drilling guide or as a guide for various surgical tools. So let's say here we are inserting screws into the spine. After the doctor is finished with this point, the robot can be moved to the next position. And again, as soon as I exit the hand guiding mode, the robot memorizes the position and stays there. So this way of interacting, as I said, is very intuitive, and it can be combined with the use of a camera so that the doctor can control the position of the final tool in the 3D imaging data of the patient, and does not need a programming device to define a position. Now, another special thing that I can show you here on this demonstrator is connected with the robot's kinematics. Now, in a normal industrial robot, we have 6 axes. 6 axes are enough to reach any point within the robot's workspace without a problem. Now, this robot has 1 axis more. So here we have 7 axes, which is a so-called redundancy. And in this application, I can show you what it can be used for. Because 7 axes are enough to reach any point in the robot's working space, but from an unlimited number of robot's positions. So here, the robot is carrying out some application. it's a very simple movement with rotations and linear transitions. And while it's doing its work, I can just touch the robot structure and reposition it the way I want it. In a medical application, when, for example, a doctor is working hand in hand with the robot, this can be used to move the robot out of the doctor's way so that he has enough space to operate. This could also be used to reach spaces that would otherwise be unreachable because there's an obstacle on the robot's way. So here it can adapt its form in a way that it can avoid colliding with obstacles. So this is what we call a null motion. So as I said, first, I hope I was able to give you a brief insight into the technical features of the robot. It's a great pity that you could not be here with us and try it out yourself. But I hope now you at least had a chance to get a better overview. And now I would like to jump into the regulatory topics. So with this graphic, I wanted to explain to you the path of our robot into the hospital. So first, we start with what KUKA provides. We have the LBR MET with the dedicated controller, the dedicated software, and a CB certificate. This is a document that confirms the compliance with medical norms so that the integration of the robot into a medical product becomes much easier. But I'll tell you more details about it in a moment. So this initial package is then purchased by our partners, by the medical device manufacturers, who turn it into a real medical device. Therefore, they're at the end effector and define the final use case of the robot, which could be minimally invasive surgery, imaging, radiotherapy, aesthetic surgery. Here we have a variety of possible applications, and which in the end are brought to certification, so receive a CE mark after the medical device manufacturers has passed the regulatory process. And then this medical product is brought into hospitals, so to doctors and medical staff by the medical device manufacturers. So the CB certificate. The CB certificate is the world's first international system for a mutual acceptance of product safety test reports and certificates. It's designed for electrical and electronic equipment, devices, and components. This means that we, on our side, can already carry out certain tests of the robot, and in this document certify that the robot complies to certain regulatory requirements. This makes the integration of the LBR MED into a medical device much easier, as tests do not have to be carried out twice, or so don't have to be carried out by the medical device manufacturer again. It saves costs and time for our customers and minimizes the risk of difficulties in the regulatory process. As we are also aware, not every medical device manufacturer has to be an expert in the robotics field and have in-depth knowledge about how a robot is designed and constructed. So the norm according to which we test is the 6601. And from that norm, we choose requirements which apply to the robot, test them, and deliver the certificate confirming the compliance. So here in the pictures, you could see the LBR MED with additional weights attached. Those are pictures from the 4x overload test of the robot. So once the 4x overload of the structure was tested, and once the application of also a 4 times the nominal payload of the robot. Other tests that have been carried out are the durability of labels, the leakage current measurements, measurements of the productive earth conductor, including an endurance test of 10,000 hours, as well as tests for rough handling, electric strength, and tests of the insulation distance. So we also carried out further tests of the LBR Med to ensure its suitability for medical applications. So we know that in the surgical setting, of course, a sterile surface is very important. As our robot can be disinfected but not sterilized, it's required to use it with a sterile drape in the final medical setting. Therefore, we measured the temperatures of the robot to make sure that even with the use of a sterile drape, it does not overheat and can be safely used. We also tested the robot in a climate chamber, as well as carried out a 10,000 hour endurance test to make sure that the protective earth conductor remains intact throughout the robot's life cycle. What KUKA also offers is the confirmation that we apply the ISO 13485, so the quality management norm for medical devices. We are regularly certified according to this norm. We also provide a RoS and REACH certificate, as well as comply to further medical standards, of course, as far as applicable. For example, the 14971, so for the norm for the application of the risk management to medical devices, we fulfill it as far as we can, as the LBR Med does not have the final defined medical application, so we cannot evaluate the whole future medical device. We also apply the norm for the medical software lifecycle process, as well as norms for the labeling and marking of the robot. So thank you very much for your attention. I hope now you have more extensive knowledge of our LBR Med.
Industrial intelligence.